This is prompt question set 2. What, if any, has been your experience working with impoverished learners in this or any other clinical setting? How do these readings/analyses of any of the social class and poverty articles on D2L inform your present thinking about these kinds of learners? And secondly, how does your individual research report give you concrete suggestions for working with these learners in ways that are truly transformative as opposed to reinforcing the personal, cultural, or popular knowledge um, you may have about impoverished learners? So first of all, what, if any, has been my experience? Um, with the Boys and Girls Club in Rochester, there were impoverished learners. There were quite a few, but none of them made it very apparent. None of them wanted to draw attention to themselves in that manner, so they would hide it very well. There was one time when I was dealing with someone who didn't like my shoes because they were very old, and I had asked them what was wrong with my shoes, and they're like, well, when our shoes get old, we replace them. And she put on a big front, and I'd say she was around 11 or 12, and it was probably more individual based than situational based. But she had a very big draw to having new things and liking new things. And it wasn't until the second or third time that I talked to her that I noticed she had very tattered clothes and was, I'm assuming, more in a poverty setting than she wanted to let others know, and she was putting up a big front to fight that. Um, Another scenario which I've dealt with a lot of these was at the excuse me the place in Rochester. I can't remember the name. Oh, Kids First. I'm sorry, Kids First. That site is interesting because the area where we connect with the children and the students is right where they live. They live, or at least a very good majority of them, in those apartments and buildings surrounding it. And I actually was invited into one of the houses. I don't know if I was breaking policy by doing this at one point, but one of the kids I was playing football with, this was last spring, by the way, invited me over to his home just to drop him off and to get a new football because theirs had been lost. And so I walked with them to his apartment, and they opened the door. I stayed on the outside. Well, he went in, but I got to talk to his mom, and then he came out with his baby brother, holding his baby brother. There was a lot of people in the house, not a lot of space. I got the sense that they were kind of living in poverty just based on the location. So that was one of the more real situations when I was just went away from my clinical setting and actually into one of the learners' houses. And being on the site and just seeing some of that stuff is it's good for me as a future educator because I need to learn how to deal with those situations. I need to not draw attention to them, and I need to be supportive at the same time, which is kind of a fine line. So the second question, how does my individual research report give concrete suggestions for working with these learners in ways that are truly transformative? So knowing the difference between what's in the media, what to expect, and what's really out there are two different things. You need to be open-minded and have a strong sense of who you are when you go into these, and you don't want to be judgmental, regardless of what background you're from. You need to be aware that there are situations that you might not be prepared for, and that you'll have to keep an open mind to. There's going to be a lot of situations. Couple of times I experienced students lying to me, and that's not really poverty based, but that's just more something I had, and it could be age based as well. But something I encountered a lot of was lying. The students would lie to my face, and not to get out of trouble. Just they were kids. They would make up stories. They would embellish, if you will, a lot of the situations. And a lot of the students that did that, I felt, were doing so for reasons because they were embarrassed or they didn't want to. Again, the girl with the sneakers and the shoes, I think that was a good situation when she was really trying to cover up. So I think keeping an open mind and being not judgmental. If a student comes into a setting, wearing the same shirt every day, don't call him like, oh, he's the smelly kid. Think that maybe he doesn't have the right home life right now and he's going through some things, and the last thing on his mind is changing his shirt because he is, worried about getting to school or, dealing with his mom or his dad or his siblings at the home life because that's more important. So keeping an open mind and really not judging is very important because as a teacher, you are an open book. You're a shoulder. People come to you for advice and to lean on you and seek help. So it's very important not to be closed-minded to them and put off. You need to be embracing and reinforcing rather than one who shuns them away for reasons out of their control.